I live in a blue two-story house on Raven Street in Seattle, Washington. It has white trim that always needs repainting, a narrow porch with space for just two chairs, and a small maple tree that leans toward my kitchen window. I bought it 3 years ago for $780,000 after saving for nearly a decade working as a software consultant for a cloud company. It is not the fanciest house on the block, but it is mine, and every month when I write the mortgage check, I remind myself that I built this life with my own hands. My silver Honda Civic rests in the driveway, never flashy, but reliable and always clean. I like things to be steady, predictable, and in order. That car is one of those steady things. My younger sister, Kayla, lives across town in a cramped studio apartment that costs her $1,600 a month. She has never liked the fact that I moved ahead in life while she kept falling behind. Kayla has a temper. She is the kind of person who wants everything now and gets angry when the world doesn't deliver it. I have tried to help her over the years, covering her rent once when she was behind, paying for her car insurance for 6 months, but it never seemed to be enough. She always acted like I owed her more. That Friday evening, she showed up without calling, which was nothing new. She stood in my doorway wearing a bright red jacket and holding a glittery purse. Her makeup was thick, and her eyes darted around as if she were already late for something. I didn't have to ask what she wanted. I could tell by the way her eyes slid past me and landed on the bowl of keys sitting on the small wooden table by the door. "I need your car," she said quickly, brushing past me like she owned the place. "I have a party on Capitol Hill tonight. My ride was canceled at the last minute. Come on, let me take the Honda. It will only be for a few hours." I shook my head before she even finished. "Kayla, no. I need the car in the morning. I have a meeting with a client, and I can't risk you not bringing it back on time. Take the bus or call a rideshare. It's not the end of the world." Her face hardened. She turned back to me like I had insulted her. "You're selfish," she snapped. "You never help me. You have everything. Your nice house, your steady job, your stupid little car, and you can't even let your own sister borrow it for one night." I stayed calm, as I always try to do with her. I have learned that if you meet anger with anger, nothing good comes of it. "Kayla," I said evenly, "I've helped you many times. This isn't about being selfish. I simply need my car." She ignored me and marched straight to the entry table. The keys clinked loudly as she shoved her hand into the bowl, tossing aside old spares and mailbox keys until her fingers closed around the Honda key. She turned with a triumphant smirk, like she had already won. But before she could walk out the door, I stepped forward and took the key right out of her hand. "Don't," I said quietly. "This isn't happening tonight." Her eyes flashed with fury. For a moment, I thought she might scream or even hit me, but instead, she slammed the bowl back down, scattering keys across the table. "Fine," she spat. "You'll regret this." She spun on her heel, yanked open the door, and stormed out so hard the porch railing rattled. I stood frozen, my heartbeat fast but my face calm, listening to the maple leaves rustle in the sudden gust. Her anger seemed to stir. An hour later, I was sitting on the couch with a book in my lap when a furious pounding rattled the front door. My stomach tightened. I knew it was her before I even stood up. I opened the door slowly, and there she was. Kayla looked disheveled, with a scratch across her cheek, and her hair falling out of its neat bun. The smell of burnt rubber clung to her clothes, harsh and bitter. She glared at me, her chest rising and falling like she had run a mile. Before I could say a word, she pulled a key ring from her purse and hurled it at my face. The metal hit my lip, leaving a sharp sting. I stumbled back as she shouted, "Now your car is trash. This is the price you pay for not giving it to me." For a long second, I could not move. I tasted blood where the key ring had split my lip. My hands trembled, not from fear but from shock. The words she had thrown hit harder than the keys themselves. She had taken my car anyway, or so she thought, and destroyed it just to punish me. That was Kayla in a single act, destructive, reckless, and convinced she was teaching someone else a lesson. I forced myself to stand tall, to breathe slowly, to not give her the satisfaction of seeing me break. Go home, Kayla, I said quietly, my voice steadier than I felt. Just go home. She rolled her eyes, muttered something under her breath I couldn't catch, and stomped down the steps. Her heels clicked angrily against the pavement until the sound faded into the night. I closed the door behind her and locked it. My hands shook as I slid the deadbolt into place. The house felt too quiet, the kind of silence that hums in your ears. I walked to the window and pulled back the curtain. There, sitting exactly where I had left it, was my Honda. The silver paint gleamed under the porch light, untouched, perfect, whole. My breath caught. Slowly, I looked down at the key ring still in my hand. The fob was not mine. The plastic was heavier, the logo different, and the metal key longer than the simple Honda cut. My stomach turned cold. These were not my car keys at all. In that moment, I understood two things at once. First, my car was safe and untouched, sitting right where it had always been. Second, something was very, very wrong. Kayla had taken someone else's car. Someone else now had to deal with the wreck she left behind. My lips still stung from the cut, and my heart beat loud in my ears. I knew this night had only just begun to twist into something bigger, and I had no idea how deep it would go. The next morning, I stepped out onto the porch with a mug of coffee, the steam curling into the cool Seattle air. It was only 7, and the neighborhood was quiet except for the faint hum of traffic down Raven Street. I looked at my driveway first, needing to see it with my own eyes. My Honda Civic sat exactly where I had left it the night before, untouched and whole, its silver paint reflecting the pale light of morning. Relief washed through me, though it was quickly replaced by confusion. If my car was here, safe, then whose car had Kayla destroyed? That was when my gaze drifted a few feet to the left, to the driveway next door. Vicky Green's driveway. Vicky and her husband, Daniel, had lived beside me since I bought my house. She was 42, tall, with a kind but no-nonsense personality. Daniel worked long shifts as a nurse at Harborview, often leaving at odd hours. Their car, a silver BMW 3 Series, usually sat gleaming in their drive, parked neatly parallel to mine. From a distance, it looked a lot like my Honda. Same gray-silver shade, same compact build, though the BMW's lines were sharper, sleeker. Enough of a resemblance that, in the dark, an angry and careless person could mistake one for the other. But this morning, the BMW was gone. In its place was a faint streak of oil staining the concrete, as though the car had been dragged or driven away in a hurry. My heart sank. Slowly, I looked at the keys Kayla had thrown at me. I turned the fob over in my hand. Bold as daylight, the BMW logo stared back at me. The front door next to mine creaked open. Vicky stepped out in a gray robe, her hair pulled back in a loose knot. Her face was pale, her eyes red, as though she had not slept. She held her phone limply in one hand. "Nora," she called softly, her voice tired and strained. "I was hoping to catch you." I set my coffee cup on the porch rail. "Morning, Vicky. What happened?" "Your car." Her voice broke as she answered. "Someone smashed it last night, near Lakeview. They hit a concrete barrier and left it there, abandoned. The police called us at 4 in the morning. Daniel and I drove over. The car's totaled. Completely gone." I felt my stomach twist. The words felt heavy on my tongue. "Vicky," I said quietly, "I think I know who did it." She froze, her eyes widening. I stepped closer, lowering my voice. I told her everything, the argument with Kayla, the stolen keys, her furious return, and the words she hurled at me, the BMW fob in my hand. I explained how my Honda never left the driveway. Every detail spilled out, leaving no space for doubt. Daniel stepped onto their porch as I spoke. He still wore his hospital scrubs, his eyes shadowed from a long night shift. He listened, then pulled his phone from his pocket. "We called our insurance already," he said. "But the officer told us this was a hit and run. Insurance won't cover it. They said there are traffic cameras all along Lakeview. They'll pull the footage soon." I nodded, though my palms were damp with sweat. "I'll call the police now, give them my statement. They need to know it was Kayla." Saying her name out loud filled me with both shame and exhaustion. She was my sister, but what she had done was not a mistake. It was reckless harm. By 9, Officer James DuPont arrived in a dark patrol car. He was middle-aged, his uniform crisp, his notebook small and neat. On my porch, I told a story again, slowly, clearly, making sure not to leave anything out. My lip still bore a small cut from the keys, which he noted down. He examined the BMW fob in my hand and carefully tagged it as evidence. "We'll run this," he said, "and the cameras will tell us the rest." Then he asked for Kayla's full name, her phone number, and her apartment address. Writing it all down, I felt both guilty and certain. There was no way to cover this up, no way to protect her from herself anymore. By noon, the sound of an engine outside made me tense. Kayla's old sedan pulled up, sputtering as it parked crooked against the curb. She stepped out in ripped jeans, sunglasses hiding her eyes, her purse dangling carelessly from one shoulder. She froze the moment she saw my Honda shining in the driveway, untouched. Her purse slipped from her arm and hit the porch step with a thud. Her voice came out high, brittle, almost a shriek. "So, whose car was that? If yours is right here, then whose car did I?" She cut herself off, her mouth open as if the truth had struck her full force. I held her gaze steadily. "Vicky's," I said. "The BMW next door. The one that looks like mine from a distance." She filed a report. "The police have the keys you threw at me, and there are cameras on Lakeview." The blood drained from her face. She swayed on her feet, clutching the railing. "It was dark," she whispered. "I thought it was yours. I just wanted to teach you a lesson." "You taught the wrong person," I said coldly. "You didn't just hurt me. You hurt the whole block." Behind me, the door opened. Vicky and Daniel stepped onto their porch. Vicky's voice was steady, though her eyes shone with restrained anger. "I'm sorry this is hard, Kayla," she said firmly, "but that car was worth $36,500. The crash destroyed a city barrier and a light pole. We already got the city's damage estimate, $11,200. Our insurance won't cover a hit and run. We have no choice but to file a case." Kayla pressed both hands to her head, shaking it violently. "No, no, no. This isn't happening." "I thought it was dark, I didn't." She glanced wildly between my Honda, Vicky, and me, then turned and ran to her sedan. She slammed the door and drove away, tires squealing as she sped down the street far too fast. Officer DuPont, who had been standing quietly by his patrol car, scribbled on his notepad as her taillights vanished. "We'll follow through," he said in a level tone. "This isn't small. She's in serious trouble." I stood frozen on the porch as the weight of everything pressed down on me. The fight, the keys, the wreck, the neighbors, the police. It had all unraveled in less than 12 hours. My coffee sat forgotten and cold on the rail, its steam long gone. I closed my eyes for a moment, steadying my breath. The truth had come out. There was no going back now. The city of Seattle did not waste time. Within 2 weeks, Kayla's name was on both a civil suit and a criminal case file. The charges read like a list of every poor choice she had made in one night: property damage, leaving the scene of an accident, reckless driving. And on top of the criminal matter, Vicky had filed her civil suit for the cost of the destroyed BMW and the repairs to city property. I received a subpoena in the mail, my name stamped in bold letters. My stomach twisted when I held it, though I knew I had nothing to hide. All I had to do was tell the truth. The first time I sat in the courthouse, I was in a small, gray-walled room with hard chairs lined against the wall. The fluorescent lights buzzed faintly overhead. Vicky sat across from me with her lawyer, Mark Connolly, a man in his 50s with sharp glasses and a neat stack of papers. He asked me to repeat the events from that Friday night. I did, word for word, just as I had told the police officer. My sister came, demanded my car, left angry, and returned to throw keys at me while bragging that she had destroyed my car. Only later did we discover it wasn't mine at all, it was Vicky's. Every fact was simple, every detail the same. Kayla had hired her own lawyer, a young man named Eric Larkin, who tried to soften the story. He suggested maybe Kayla hadn't realized what she was doing, maybe she was under stress, maybe the car looked so similar she simply made a mistake. But the prosecutor was ready. He pulled out the traffic camera footage, and when the screen flickered on, I felt my chest cave in. There was Kayla, as clear as if she were standing in front of me, wearing that same red jacket, carrying her glittery purse. The footage showed her stumbling out of Vicky's BMW, looking at the crushed front end where it had slammed into a barrier. She glanced around, touched her cheek, and then walked away into the night. Watching it was like reliving the argument, except this time I had proof, not just words. My hands curled into fists in my lap. I remembered the girl she used to be, the little sister who shared a twin bed with me when we lived in Ohio, the girl I once gave my allowance to so she could buy sneakers she wanted. That memory stabbed at me now. Love does not erase harm. It only makes it heavier. During a break in the hearing, my phone rang. It was our father. I stepped into the hallway, my voice echoing against the tiled floor. His tone was heavy, almost pleading. "Nora," he said, "can't you help Kayla out just this once? If you tell the court you lent her the car, the judge might go easier. They'd see it as a family matter that got out of hand." I gripped the phone tighter. "Dad, she didn't borrow my car. She stole the keys to Vicky's. I can't lie. Truth isn't a favor we trade. Truth is the ground we stand on when everything else collapses." He sighed, disappointed, as though my refusal was betrayal. But I would not bend. Too many times in my life, I had smoothed things over for Kayla, making excuses, paying bills, covering for her mistakes. This time, there was no smoothing, no covering. This time, the truth had to be the truth. When the trial moved to the civil case, the judge spoke in a calm voice that reminded me of a teacher determined to be understood. He laid out the numbers plainly, without drama. The BMW's value, $36,500. The cost of repairing the city's concrete barrier and light pole, $11,200. Towing and storage fees, $2,000. Vicky's loss of income and rental car costs, $3,800. Additional city cleanup fees, $1,250. Altogether, the damage total came to $47,700, with added fees pushing it to $52,750. The figure landed in the courtroom like a weight, pressing down on everyone's shoulders. The verdict came swiftly. Vicky won the civil case. Kayla was ordered to pay the full amount in restitution. I watched my sister's face crumble as the words sank in. She looked at me, her eyes wide, as though I could undo what had just happened. But I couldn't. Not this time. The criminal sentencing came next. The prosecutor brought up her past, a DUI from last year near Tacoma, 2 unpaid tickets that had gone to collections. The judge frowned, shaking his head. "This is not a one-time mistake," he said firmly. "This is a pattern of reckless behavior." He sentenced her to 1 year in county jail, though he offered a path to reduce time. If she completed community service and alcohol counseling, her sentence could be shortened. He also suspended her driver's license for 18 months. The sound of the gavel striking the desk echoed like a door slamming shut. I flinched, even though it wasn't aimed at me. Afterward, in the wide hallway beneath the skylight that filtered weak daylight down onto the marble floor, Vicky approached me. She hugged me softly, her voice quiet. "I'm sorry for your family," she said. "I wish it didn't have to be like this." "I'm sorry about your car," I told her, holding her arm. "You did nothing wrong." We stood like that for a long moment, 2 women bound together by an accident neither of us had chosen. Then life moved us forward again. Kayla was led away in handcuffs. Her shoulders hunched, her eyes staring at the ground. She did not look at me again. My father's calls grew colder after that, blaming me for not protecting her. But deep down, I knew I had protected the only thing that mattered, the truth. That night, back in my quiet blue house, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea. My Honda Civic sat in the driveway, solid and steady as ever. Across the way, Vicky's driveway was empty, just a faint stain of oil where the BMW had once gleamed. The street looked the same as always, yet it felt changed forever. I closed my eyes and breathed the cool air. The sound of the gavel still rang in my ears, but so did the steady voice inside me that said I had done what was right. Family love is strong, but truth is stronger. And sometimes, standing on that truth is the only way to survive. In the weeks after the trial, life on Raven Street settled into a strange quiet. My house looked the same: blue paint, white trim, the porch swing creaking when the wind shifted, but I no longer looked at it the same way. For years, I had thought of home as a safe bubble, a place untouched by the messes that swirled around Kayla. But now the porch carried the echo of her voice screaming that my car was trash. The entry table still bore a faint scratch where she had slammed the key bowl, and even the driveway felt heavier. Truth had seeped into the cracks of this house, and it could not be swept away. One morning, I decided to do something simple and physical to mark a turning point. Between my driveway and Vicky's, an old chain link marker had leaned crooked for months, rust eating its base. I hired a local handyman to replace it with a new steel post, sturdy and clean. It cost me $320, money I didn't strictly need to spend but felt necessary. When he finished, the line between our homes looked sharper, steadier. To me, it wasn't just a marker of property. It was a small act of repair, a symbol that boundaries matter, and that they can be rebuilt stronger than before. A few days later, Daniel stopped by with a box of pastries from a bakery on Pike Street. The smell of butter and sugar filled my kitchen as we unpacked croissants, muffins, and 2 lemon tarts. He and Vicky sat with me on the porch, sipping coffee, talking not about lawsuits or wrecks but about ordinary things: how to keep squirrels out of tomato plants, whether the maple tree should be trimmed in spring or fall, what color flowers would look best along the front walk. Peace, I realized, is not one grand event. It is a series of small choices. You make them every day until they stack together into something sturdy. The phone rang the following week. I almost let it go to voicemail, but when I saw Kayla's name flash on the screen, I pressed accept. Her voice was quieter than I had ever heard it. "Nora," she said, "I'm sorry. I thought it was your car. I wanted to scare you. I hate that you never need me. I hate that you never ask for anything." Her words cut through me, softer than her usual fire, but sharp in their own way. For years, she had framed herself as the one overlooked, the one I didn't lean on. Maybe she was right. Maybe my self-sufficiency, my insistence on solving my own problems, had made her feel useless. But her answer to that emptiness had been destruction. I took a breath and spoke carefully. "I always needed a sister, Kayla. Not a lesson. Not a threat. A sister." Silence hung on the line. For a moment, I thought she might hang up. Then she said, "When I get out, I'll pay Vicky. I'll sell my studio furniture and move into something cheaper. I'll start over." "That's good," I told her. "But you have to finish the counseling. You have to stay with it. I'll pick you up on the release day and take you to lunch. But I won't pretend nothing happened. Love without truth is only noise." She sniffed quietly, then the line went dead. I set the phone on the table and stared out at the maple tree. A part of me hurt for her. A part of me hurt for myself. But another part, steady, grounded, knew that this was the first real step toward something different. By spring, the neighborhood had shifted in subtle ways. Vicky and Daniel bought a used Subaru for $19,000. It wasn't sleek like their BMW, but it fit the street better. Practical, reliable, unflashy. It looked right parked under the streetlight, a car that belonged here. My Honda kept running, loyal as ever. I saved $6,000 from extra consulting hours and finally hired a professional arborist to trim the maple tree. Its branches stretched wider now, not weighed down but balanced, ready to grow strong. Sometimes, late at night, I would sit on the porch steps and think about the moment the keys had hit my lip. A small thing, just a flash of pain, but it had changed everything. It had forced me to stop making peace at any cost. It had taught me that silence can be strength when it protects the truth, and it can be weakness when it hides it. That night, I chose the first kind. And though it had led to broken cars, courtrooms, and prison sentences, it had also led to something else: clarity. The neighborhood began to heal in ways I didn't expect. Neighbors who had once waved politely from a distance started stopping by to ask if I needed help with yard work or to drop off baked goods. People whispered about Kayla, of course, they always would, but they also told me they admired the way I handled things. "You didn't cover it up," one older neighbor said. "That takes courage." For the first time in years, I felt like part of the street, not just someone who lived behind a blue door. Kayla called again a month before her release. This time her voice carried something new, not just an apology, but an effort. She told me about the counseling sessions, about the women she met inside who were trying to break cycles of drinking and bad choices. She said she had started writing in a journal, something I never imagined her doing. I listened, not promising forgiveness, but offering presence. Sometimes that is all you can give, and sometimes it is enough. The day finally came when I drove to the county jail to pick her up. The sky was clear, the air crisp, and my Honda hummed steadily as I pulled into the lot. She walked out in simple clothes, carrying a single bag. For the first time in a long while, her eyes met mine without defiance. I took her to a small cafe near the waterfront. We ate sandwiches, drank coffee, and spoke about what came next. It wasn't a grand reconciliation, but it was something real, something honest. That was more than I had hoped for. Now, when evening falls, I sit on the porch and watch the sky turn peach-colored as the sun dips west. My street is quiet, my house steady, my car still reliable. Across the way, Vicky's Subaru gleams under the streetlight, a reminder of what was lost but also of what endured. I think of Kayla learning step by step how to rebuild. I think of myself, learning step by step how to stop hiding behind silence. And I think of the truth, that fragile, unglamorous, unyielding thing that carried us through. This is my street. This is my house. This is my life in Seattle. And each day I choose, again and again, to stand on solid ground.